Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? Man, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in as I get over here. And y'all know who you do podcasts, you know how it is. You get that going and you get that going, and then you hope it all goes. And anyway, it is Thursday, so good to see everyone. Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. Be our ever present reality. Didn't get to actually type in that today in the chat room. Thank you for all of you in the chat room. Chloe, I'll try to put you to sleep, dear, so that you will have a restful time. I'm going to talk about sleep. This is a show about no things, so yeah, it's wide open. So anyway, how are y'all doing? Thank you, moderators, and love you all. DC, good to see you. Chloe, yeah, I managed to. There we go. Relaxed. Well, Lauren, how are you, my dear? Got to get an update from you. I trust everything is well. I know it is. So I don't know if you're stateside or not, but welcome. I am Nancy. Well, hello, hello, hello. How are you, my dear? Much love to you, Lost in Space. And Robert Garcia, what's up? Purgatory Traveler. Deborah, how are you, my dear? Deborah Sloan. Pin Greedy, what's up? Chloe, much love back to you, darling. Someone says the shirt. All right, so I'll show you the shirt. This is, and this is so true. It's like, we know that normalcy is never going to come from any of us. Yeah. The hell is normalcy? It's the best definition had to be Star Trek movie Generations. And Malcolm McDowell is playing the bad guy. And he looks at Geordi with those visors and he's going to say, well, what the hell are you? What is this? And these things says, well, I'm normal. And actually it came back and he said, what is normal? Mm-hmm. I know. But I've been tested. Yes. Yeah. One of the favorite memories I have is my time at the mental hospital for kids. Yeah. Jewish Children's Hospital. Mm-hmm. Love the place. Got to tell you, because where I had been living and compared to that, man, I was stepping uptown. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. There was food, which, back in that experience, food was a rare commodity. It was warm. It wasn't freezing to death. And every night at 9:00, they rolled out the dessert cart. Yeah. We're talking ice cream, we're talking, you can actually have cereal. There you go. I told you this is a show about no things. So, so I trust everyone is doing good. Thank you for, tuning in. 63. I don't know how many people are out there, but yeah, thank you. So, yeah. Who's had a hard time sleeping lately? Hey, Papa, well, good to see you. Pa Joe, hello. Normal is boring. I find pressing into the unknown is interesting. Ain't that the truth? Brian, 1958, what's up? They let me work alone in vital areas. Ah, I love that. So, yeah. How's it going for y'all? Weird stuff, man. That's all I got to say. Been around a little while. And this is some crazy stuff. What's going on? I mean, I don't know. I look back and I remember when Henry Kissinger came into Houston, Texas. And I was a part of that group out there. Yeah. You know, Kissinger represented the establishment, the one inflicting the pain upon our world. And back then, you know, when you started getting at the age, you know, of 18, the thing that you had facing you was this machine that was eating up, you know, the youth, the draft. We're talking about bringing back the draft. I don't know if it's going to work with this Generation Z. I got to tell you, I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But, you know, and many in this group, you know, Gilbert, how are you, brother, up there at Star? Just stop it. Guess who's joining the crew out there? It's like, yeah, man, I remember it. We had friends that, you know, their number, you know, they got right in there, and some didn't come back, and those that did, some weren't right anymore. I remember one individual, particularly Brady. Yeah, anyway. So I was out there protesting along with, you know, as I think about it, I don't know, there may have been a couple thousand of us. They had the tear gas going, you know, they had the baton swinging, and yeah, but it was civil protest, you know. We didn't have any clubs, I can tell you that. But yeah. And here I look nearly a half a century later, and I got to tell you what, Barry Maguire comes to mind. I met Barry and I was in a foster home, and they there was a church. It was a community church anyway down the street. And anyway, I went to the, back in those days, it was, you know, called, it was kind of like a coffee house thing, you know. But Barry Maguire came in, and I still remember the dude, and you know how he, because I was an impressionable young man. I mean, yeah. And yeah, you know, he was convinced that we were on the verge of Armageddon back in 1968, 67, 69. 69 was, I was only 14. Many of you were probably a little older, and maybe a lot of you weren't even around. But, you know, 69 was really, you know, the year the world changed. You know, we went to the moon, we had Woodstock. You know, it was just that entering into what we are now, but then we were anticipating entering into the age of Aquarius. And I got to tell you, I bet if Barry could talk today and say, well, take a look at what we have today facing this, how would you compare that to 50 years ago? You know, and I think I'm Gilbert, I think a number of y'all, you know, I remember kindergarten, first, second, third grade, but particularly that first grade going into second grade, we were doing the duck, drop, and cover. And, you know, it was precarious times. I mean, we were literally on the precipice of nuclear war. And, you know, you had this change and shift in consciousness with the youth. This thing called music. Penny, Kelly, we're going to get her back on because I don't think that there has been enough really thought about this advent of electrifying music. But here it was coming in. And if many, I did a video on this 7 years ago. It's like, wow, nearly 5,000 podcasts. Can you get over that? 5,000. But anyway, how when you look at what music did, and there was that period, I would probably say the peak of the creativity. Oh, I don't know. We seem to the 70s was this plethora of expansion of sound. I mean, I don't know if they had the same type of music, if we're talking, let's say the Beatles. I was, because I have my memory. I remember with my mother and her husband at a drive-in, was in the back seat, watching A Hard Day's Night. I remember that. Now, I have to look back and I have to say my mom was pretty cool. She really dug the music. And I mean, hey, right on. And, just to lay it out there, my mom was 18 when she had me. So advance that up to, she was in her mid to late 20s. But anyway, the music, it had that effect. I mean, you go back and you look at that movie, Hard Day's Night. It was a phenomenon that, it happens still, I guess, in the larger shows, but that was unprecedented. I mean, no one had ever heard that before. And wow, it changed everything. Everything was impacted by that electrification of a musical note. That's some deep stuff, man. I mean, I was reviewing last night. Lynn is a prolific reader, and she and I we just like it when it's really quiet and just read. I was revisiting Annie Besant's book in C.W. Ledbetter, Thought Forms. This is an interesting book. I find it so interesting. I've read it. I've many times looked. I don't know if you've ever seen the paintings of the drawings, but these are drawings of thought. And the colors mean things, and it's quite interesting. And speaking of this, so and when Annie wrote this book with Ledbetter, I mean, this was back in 1907, I think. Yeah. Madame Blavatsky was in the peak of the movement, of the spiritualist movement. It's still a fascinating time. I'm going to get Jay on, because it was like there's something going on here. There was this worldwide phenomenon, and I would probably compare it maybe to the day of John Dee. It was that period in Europe where, it was very socially acceptable to really think about talking to the dead, breaking complete rules and laws of the church. And if you look in history, it never stops. It's quashed by the established puppet masters, those who control the thought form, the mind. I mean, that's what it's all about here. It's the battle for our mind. I mean, if you're paying attention to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and that kind of crap, well, I can tell you exactly where you're centered at. I'm not saying it's good, not saying bad. I'm just simply saying it's the battle for this. And as Annie wrote, and I wrote, I was reading this and I went, wow. So have you ever thought about when you put on your favorite music that what you're actually creating is a thought form? An Edgar Gore? And if you understand magic and alchemy and how thought, that's the first principle. The universe is mental, cause and effect, and it goes on, so forth, so forth. But when music is played, it has an impact on this, it has an impact on this. So your mind, your center of energy, whether you want to call it your spirit, your soul, it's the mind. And Annie pointed out here, and as I was reading, and how they would do these sessions, that music, they would be, back in the day, they would have, and I want to read this to you. And so you have to understand, you have to read the book to understand what color means. And in this case, they have a grid that they used in their experiments and their workshops, of where there would be one or two people that would actually be in the astral realm, consciously aware here, but interpreting what they're seeing in the ether to, as they say, the blandness of color in this dense realm. They say that we have no idea of color. Ours are muted. I want to read this. A striking feature in this form, now these are thought forms, is the radical difference between the two types of musics which occur in it. One producing the angular rocky masses, and the other rounded billowy clouds which lie between them. Other motifs are shown by the broad bands of blue and rose and green, which appear at the base of the bell, and the meandering lines of white and yellow, which quiver across them, are probably produced by a rippling archipel music, little bossa nova. So this is what you're seeing here. This is the interpretation of the thought form in music. But anyway, I just found it interesting that how music today, we take it for granted. And kind of tying the point made about in the 70s, there was a peak of creativity. I mean, there was so much expansion taking place at an exponential rate that came at the collective consciousness or soul of Homo sapiens. I didn't know if Neanderthals had music. I'm sure, I guess they did. I don't know how the Cro-Magnons did it, or any of the genesis of us. But it's one of the things I'll take with me, is that I got to live in this period of time of where music dominated. It dominated everything about me. And always has. I have enjoyed the many different forms and variations of rock music. I was fortunate, even in the most difficult of circumstances, where I was taught classical music, formal music. I was taught how to read sheet music. Still can. It's a language within itself. Some say it's the language of angels. I've seen some pretty powerful miracles happen when people are singing. And specifically, I'm thinking of the crusades that I was a part of back in the day, when I was a, practicing Christian. I was still, let me tell you what, I have been a pagan. I was a pagan before I was born. I went through that basically as an initiation, but getting more to the point, I have seen some miraculous things take place where the veil was breached between the ethereal and the physical. And a lot of times, some of the biggest miracle in these crusades came at the same time when everyone was in a spirit of praise. And when you add the fact you have talented musicians, they suddenly become channelers. Seen it many times where, the people come off stage and I said, what the heck, what was that? And they said, something just took me over. And when you add people praying in the spirit, i.e. tongues, wow, something happens, man. I mean, it unleashes a power that is tangible. And if you get back to the 70s, particularly I think about back in the day, St. Louis had their AM station, KMOX. Jack Carney was the guy who was the host from 10 a.m. to noon. Now, there was a period in time when I worked construction. I was a master drywall finisher. It was, it was artistic. I look back now and I say, yeah, it isn't any wonder. And then you move on. But he used to do these specials, these 2-hour specials. For instance, the crooners, music of the 30s. And this is where the beginning of that was. The amplification of music had begun. And then you see it as it moved into the 40s. You had swing, big band. And it was interesting the way we were creating, because we were using that which we knew. Orchestras. You had the woodwinds, you had the horns, percussion. And each had their part. Many of you who probably remember, if you were in band, typically you had 3 chairs, 3 rows, first row, second row, third row. And then in each row, you had first row, first chair. Now, that was a covenant. I never got it. The girls always got it. I mean, but hey, listen, it was all right. I got my ass off the third row, got up to the second, which was, was no simple thing. And before I could get to try out for that first row, the Mr. Foster, my band director, thought I would be good on the bassoon. Yeah. Actually, I'm glad I did it. I had no idea about the bassoon, but it's a sophisticated instrument. It's a double reed instrument, requires a great deal of skill of understanding how to balance the tone and the frequency of a single reed, which was a clarinet or saxophone, but a double reed. Double reed is also associated with the oboe. I love the oboe. And I have a great deal of respect for the masters of that alchemy. And anyway, as you see it beginning to progress in the music, the big band era, I mean, they incorporated every instrument. And then we got this thing, when you start coming into the blues, and then, you begin to have this revival that took place in the 50s. It was a reshuffling of, what was the seeds of what was the 30s and the 40s. And you think about what we came into the 50s, we suddenly had idols that were gods. The gods returned. I mean, there could be no doubt that Elvis Presley, in his heyday, had a magical, godlike effect wherever he went. You can't just tell me that that was just circumstance. I don't believe that. I believe that Brian says, I played the trumpet. Yeah, there you go. And you look at the effect of what Elvis did. He came from a Christian background, gospel music. Many of the transitioners had that background of gospel music. The reason why gospel music is so addicting is because it's typically really it's founded in the soul, and you got that beat that you can easily begin to, oh, a happy day, you see, and it just starts going. And then we got the 60s, and there we are back in the 70s. I mean, come on, it's a trip, man. I mean, we've had that opportunity, and I think about today, the thought forms. No idea. I mean, we taught on this. We did a group experiment. We still got the egregores. It's still he, she, depends, still there. If you tie into it, gift, go inside for truth, right? Think about this now with a different eye and perspective. Go back and watch A Hard Day's Night, those early concerts of the Beatles where you couldn't hear them. The energy that was being channeled, and there was something there that was using that energy. It didn't go to waste. I mean, it was so strong. I believe it propelled us into a completely different direction. I don't know what the alternate reality would be like if there was no music, no rock and roll. Yeah, I mean, and then again, I have to ask myself, well, do they have rock and roll in the other realms and the other, places? I mean, if the universe is as big as they say it is, I don't know. I'm just still trying to figure out exactly where I am on the map. But do other planets have rock and roll? Do they have, rap? I mean, think about all the genres of music itself. I have quite a plethora of, music. It's very eclectic. I mean, and I'll carry that with me. I got this freaking jukebox, man, that it's like, yeah, I may not be able to take my iPod with me, but whoever inherits my iTunes account, I've got like 50 days of music on here. You never hear the same song twice, but Lost in Space says, my reality changed in 2016. So did the music for me. Interesting. Well, the Travis Stock experiment. Okay, I'm just getting in here late and reading and some of the stuff. Yeah. Interesting. And it's interesting effect. I mean, excuse me, one of the things that as I have had the privilege of looking back, I've been an adept for quite some time. I passed the initiation a long time ago. And there are others of you who have that same background. I mean, I'm grateful for the fact that, that charismatic Pentecostal experience, that was just far out. It really was. It was some powerful shit, man. There ain't no doubt about it. And the thing about it is, it really was nothing different than what I was already doing. I grew up on the street and I didn't have any particular mentors. And there was one individual who befriended me in a very kind way and bought my first book that I ever read, Earl Nightingale. Never heard of that before. And then Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. They were using the same principle, the same dynamics, the same alchemy, the same magic. Retraining my mind. I mean, I carry with me the fact that so much of the experiments of the day, was the mind. It's always about the mind. It always is. It's interesting. And now when I think about it, that whole time, that whole period was, wow, it was mystical. It really was. I often think that the reason why people seek out spirituality is that they want to reconnect to the supernatural. I mean, this realm is all right, but when you bring in the supernatural into it, and if you learn that you can connect into it 24/7, you don't ever need to unconnect. Amazing. And, I think about that back in those times. If I had the perspective I have now, and I had carried it then, I don't know if it would have been the same result. But my point is that when you would see these people, and I was part of that, singing into this thing, the gift of discernment and the gift of knowledge and seeing into the spirit realm, when voices unite like this is what makes us unique. And I often wonder if we could all come together as a group, much like you would come into a congregation. And the religious masters have known this, is that the way to get you into the spell is that the very first thing go to any church, they do this. You go into the inner sanctum, the sanctuary, right? And they start out with music, singing. It's interesting. Why? Well, there's a reason why. It gets you into the channel. And depending on your denomination and how you perceive those things, some can sound like, a dying cat that's being, run over and over again. Or you have those other times when it's just like, man, and I know music. I've had the privilege of being able to build a freaking post-production facility. I don't talk about it, but folks, I got to tell you, it was a fucking far out experience. Building a sound stage. Do y'all have any idea what a sound stage is? Understanding from the contractors, and then you get the acoustical engineers. One of the top LA acoustic geniuses invented the LEDE, live in, dead in. We built, voiceover booths. We built a recording studio. We had a Harrison, 124 input board. We had audio sweetening. We had 4 edit suites, some of the top edit suites of our time. We were one of the very first facilities that actually was bringing in digital. I don't talk about those times, but I love them. And again, all of that was training. I mean, when you get to sit down at a conference table and you're listening to, and these guys, they came from, many of them were the sound engineers of many albums, many rock bands. And then you combine that with motion, imagery, sound, and you see how it's all built. We had one of the top digital audio recorders, New England Digital. And I mean, It's just beautiful. But it's all part of that essence. I mean, as I look back now into it, it's interesting because it was all immersed into sound, frequency, motion. Yeah. Said this was a show about nothing. Hey, Kaz, how you doing, darling? Good to see you. Grace, what's up? Chris, good to see you. Blazing River. He says, I have a complete studio now. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Kaz, how you been? Got to get you on, dear. Let me know about next week. I'd love to have you. See how things are going for you. Delete Truth, how are you doing? Hadn't seen you before. So anyway, I mean, what a great time. I mean, I won 2 Emmys. Don't talk about that. But yeah, I was a director and producer. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I was one of the top sales producers. Yeah. And I don't even have a high school diploma. It doesn't matter. And I remember when I first started the vision for this facility, wow, it's a true story. I mean, it's right here in St. Louis. Yeah. I got the idea. I started my first video company called VEI, Video Educators Incorporated. That led me to become a registered lobbyist for the home remodeling industry. Produced, I was so far ahead of my time, I was going around to the insurance companies. And back there, the video equipment was bulky and it was expensive. And I was going to corporate headquarters of insurance companies, putting a presentation forward of how, you can use this device to record everything that you're insuring so that you have a visual record of it so that it would reduce fraud. You would think that people would go, oh yeah, that sounds really good. No. But, I was out there and, those pioneers. And so the city I lived in, St. Louis, that they didn't have what I felt was a world-class production facility. I just thought it up. The thing about it was, favor was on my life then. And there would be key people that I would meet, and I'd share my vision. And then they began to get into the vision. They became a part of the vision. Doors were opening. I remember back in the day, again, talking about KMOX, Robert Hyland was the senior vice president of CBS on their radio station. And he was a mover and shaker. He had an influence in policy. He knew policy. He knew the culture in governments. Anyway, the point is, I used to listen to him when he would come in and do his opinion commentaries. So I had a car phone. It was radio phone is really what it was. And I remember getting this call, and Mr. Hyland wanted to see me. I didn't know the guy. I don't know how he knew me. So I went downtown, and right from the arch that just a mere 5 years ago, I was a drywall finisher and did all the drywall in the museum and bookstore in the arch. So fast forward, here I am. I've always enjoyed dressing, sharp dressed man. And I go in and meet this guy. And he said, I mean, what he told me, he says, you're rare. He said, I did your whole background, looked at your background, and he says, you've got vision. He says, we don't have enough visionaries. He says, and the fact he says, I've heard about your vision. You want to build this production facility. He says, this is what this city needs. And he says, I'm behind this. And he says, I'm going to introduce you to people. Hey. So I don't know why that came, but that's just part of the past, So I have another surprise for everybody here. There is a conference that's taking place, and I believe it's in Connecticut. Talking to those who are putting on this conference, it's the Mandela Effect Conference. I believe it's in early September. I'm still working out with the individual, and we're going to do a live show. But here's the cool thing. They're giving away 2 free tickets. So those of you who are on the East Coast, and I don't know, you can be on the West Coast I think it's I've seen it, and we'll get more into it. But yeah, so 2 free tickets, and I think it's going to be a fabulous conference. It's kind of short notice, and that's why I think, if you're on the East Coast, we want to make sure that whoever does that. Let's see, Leah says, the arch was finished when I was in 2nd grade. They let us watch them. Yeah. Oh, you lived in Baldwin. Yeah. I was at Jewish Children's Hospital watching that from my room. Yeah, interesting times. I love that. But yeah. Kaz, you don't get a what? Chloe says, I never went to any high school football games. You know what, Chloe? Yeah. I went to the one in the state home at Burnett Valen. I actually tried out for the football team. Yeah. No, this soul was never meant for that. I mean, first time I go out there to catch a damn ball, I literally broke my finger, and I said, okay. But I dated the cheerleader, the head cheerleader. Yeah. Margie Hall, still remember. Oh, she was a cutie. Anyway. There we go. Where is the conference going to be at? I believe, I should have had it pulled up and book it, but I believe it's in Connecticut. I believe that is in that general area up there in the Northeast. Hello, Susie Q. How are you doing? Good to see you. Doing sweet corn and peaches today. Wow. Far out. Chloe said, I tried out for the football team in junior high. I love it. Blazer says, my son played high school football with Jay Cutler. How about that? James says, always wanted to be the cheerleader, but they didn't accept guys. That's true. I don't remember any of the guys. Yeah, anyway. See, those are the things. This has been interesting so far, has it not? But it's all part of the trip, man. And our topic today, nothing. Actually, it's no thing, no thing. I don't know. Is this really all a dream? That's what I kind of figure out. Hey, Kaz says, I get favor. Oh, well, Kaz, you know what? We can focus that and bring that into reality. Send me what you are looking for, and we can get behind that. It's like getting back with Annie's book. I did a show on this one. Remember when we did this one? Magical use of thought forms. This is how we built our own egregore. And I'm reading this again, just going over it again, and I'm going, when you allow a couple of years to pass, and something that, we put together and we talked about it here. And then you look and you begin to count all the different times that your thought became something. We're coming up, actually it's in September, and we will have been 1 year in our new house. And hey, Lilith, I like no thing. Oh, there you go. Hey, Jeanette, good to see you. But the result of what we have here was from a thought, much like the vision that I had. I've, if you want to look at it, I've always been an entrepreneur. And the key thing about entrepreneurs is that they're visionaries. They are. They also have the remarkable ability of turning what is negative, a setback, as a mere stepping stone. In fact, when you get down to it, visionaries actually have to literally carve out in the ethereal, in the substance of what we're emerged in. And it kind of gets into today, when you think about the state of what the United States is. It's sad to see what's happening here. But it's not just here. There seems to be I don't know if it's deliberate, but there is a shifting taking place. There's a literal change. And I think that we're within that point of that change where it's hard to remember the past, but it's even more difficult to kind of anticipate the future. It just has an energy. Now get back to a visionary. We're living somebody's vision. It's just a fact. We all have somehow or another contributed to what this is. And many of you probably like myself, and that riles me within, going, you know what? No, I don't want to be a part, but yet we are. So that being the case, no need to be, getting all down in the frown about it. All right, fine. So if this is the reality of thought, okay, I can dig that. If we are living somebody else's thought, all right, I can dig that too. And if we contributed to that, fine. All right, fine. But it doesn't mean that I have to stay like that. And it means that if it worked for them, it'll work for me. And if it will work for me, it'll work for thee. So if thee and me become we, and we don't have to pee, we can really tee this off. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. See, I am a poet and I always knew it. Anyway. Oh, come on. That was pretty cool. I mean, laugh a little bit, folks. It's okay. Scotty Boy's got him going. Chloe says, because you believed it. It's amazing. And throughout my whole life, many of you are the same way. That's why we're here. I mean, this is a show about nothing. And look how many people are watching. I mean, that's my point. But you think about this. How many of us have had that vision, that desire? And I learned from my days associated with Christianity, learned one of the key things about having something materialize. And it's in the Old Testament of all places. Habakkuk, strange book. Habakv, and it's one of these things, Hapoka. And I don't even know if I can still. I've heard a lot of preachers, try to pronounce it, but anyway, I believe it's 2:3. Write the vision down, and though it tarry, it surely shall come to pass. Folks, that shit's really in me, man. I mean, it is. I mean, I don't have to struggle to even. It's just, it's like, now the data file is right there. But, and if some of you want some change, write it down. Little digress here. So there was a time where we had been ripped off for millions and millions of dollars. I mean, millions. Devastating. World fucking collapsing type of thing, And I remember I was so pissed. I was a Christian. And I said, no way that this can be happening. I mean, yeah. See, I'd learned that principle of writing it down. You write it down and you start concentrating into that and you continue. That's why doing a business plan is vitally important for any business. If you don't have a vision for your company, and if that vision isn't written down, you don't have a business plan that shows how that vision will actually become, calling those things that be not as though they are. Yeah. Writing it down. Well, anyway, I was pissed. And throughout my life, I know that I can go into people, you can call it the astral, you can call it the spirit realm. And I am as consciously sitting in physical earth. I know this. I know. And at this time, I was out in Colorado. I was sitting in my dining room. And I went out and got law books. And Black's Law Book is probably one of the best things if you're ever going to. This is just me, but this is how I work through it. And so I realized that there had been a thief. Now, I know that the spirit realm is real. And the way that things went down, even then, it's amazing that I was somehow consciously aware that there was a spiritual aspect to this. Long story short, I mean, I wrote down my whole case as though I was preparing as an attorney. Wrote my brief out, wrote the whole thing out. And then subsequently had court in my house. See, you can be tried in absentia. Do you know that? Just because you don't show up into a court means nothing. You can literally be sued in another state, in another county. You could even be held in contempt of court, which is an immediate warrant. And even worse, you can be held liable by the judgment. So you can be tried in absentia. In other words, you don't have to be there. This is reading that. I'm going, okay. It's like, wow. So any case, there you go. And I did. I had a full trial and, and it's a true story after that. I mean, I won. And you know what my compensation was? I designed a whole new payment system. It came to me. It was a long time. But yeah. It is glitching. I just saw that, Chloe. It's like, someone doesn't want to, this out. Like, gee. But anyway, well, that was an interesting hour. But it's true. Says it's preparing for the live stream. Well, I am anticipating that I am still live. Let me see. Yeah. Hey, Steiger, I see you, man. I think that's just, yeah, quite interesting. Seeing on that side outside. Okay. So anyway, it's a trip, folks. It is absolutely a trip. I love it. And I guess I hadn't even thought about it. Today it looks like, we actually did discuss something, you know, nowhere actually is a place. So they say. I think we're there. But yeah, and probably I'll do this again. Pin Greedy, you're welcome. Miriam, much love to you. Thank you. Brian. Hey, Brian, that sounds cool. It's a show that would be a group of people I could party with. Yeah. But anyway, we're all visionaries. I don't know about entrepreneurs, you know, but as I look back on my PhD, that's what entrepreneurship does. If you've been out there raising venture capital and, the whole bit, and you just believe in your vision and, you give birth to it, you realize that then there's nothing that can hold you back. There's nothing that I can't materialize. And even I, once in a while, have to get back, I get into my books, I like with Esther and Jerry Hicks, ask and it is given. All tie into it. All tie into, the ability of the thought form. In essence, we're all thought forms, aren't we? Somebody was thinking of us. Well, they may not have been thinking of us, but, anyway, you understand how it comes about. Hey, John, what's up? Good to see you. But Paul Joe, yeah, what a long, strange trip it's been. Jerry was right. I just listened to that song yesterday. It's like, geez, okay, that's cool. But yeah, materialize Chloe's minding. All right, we can do this. There's nothing we can't do. This is a very powerful group. I mean, if you were going to go out and recruit, your A team, this is where the A team, this is where they hang out. There's all A teamers in here. So no doubt about it. And that's why we really dig. That's it, Jackie. That's it. Nothing missing, nothing broken. I mean, you speak that out into your life. You speak that into the universe. You are special. Because this is how the universe looks at that. How'd they figure that out? She's speaking nothing missing, nothing broken in her life. It has to come to pass. And even if you pass, that's still going to be there. You'll be seen as one of those nothing missing, nothing broken. That's being godlike, if not the very essence of what it is to be a goddess, a god. We can control thought. We can manifest thought. If that's not an act of a god or goddess, I don't know what is. Seriously. If manifesting your thoughts doesn't convince you that you're not a god, what more evidence do you need? What more evidence could you want? And the doubts that attack you, that's natural. They attack you because they're jealous. You just got to keep on. What I have spoken, I create. I create that which I speak, abracadabra. Yeah. Now faith is, yeah, the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things not seen. Yeah. All right, folks. There you go. I hope it's been fun. It has been fun for me. And because I didn't actually have anything, we've gotten about like 4 inches of rain here just to the south and southwest of us. I think they've gotten like 12 inches of rain. So my cup runneth over. Yeah. Always the head, always come out on top. Always. Even that which was meant for my own harm, I profit from. It becomes profit for me. Because what the thing about it is if you weren't capable of overcoming the obstacle, if you would say unto this mountain, be you cast up, thrown into the sea, and not doubt in your heart, but believe that those things for which you speak, they shall come to pass. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, it's for me, it's like, okay, we all need those reminders. But again, folks, if anything you've got from today at the end of this, if you've manifested your thoughts, welcome to the club. Yeah, we've been expecting you. Good to see you. Big hug. Come on, big hug. There you go. All right, folks. I'm not sure about tomorrow. We'll see, but definitely on Monday. And enjoy the day. All you goddesses and gods. Beautiful group here. All right. Much love to you. And I will see you when we see each other. Kaz, much love to you, dear. Tell me what you're needing, and we'll see what we can do.